What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. Today, we are going to be talking to somebody who's become one of my good friends, mentor, just someone I really look up to. And he's really high in the dental space, but he's just one of those really unique people that, you know, you just want in your life. And he's a fantastic businessman. For nearly 40 years, Dr. Tony Feck has established himself as not only an outstanding dentist, but an effective mentor and educator, a talented author, and a prolific speaker. He started his first practice from scratch after graduating from the University of Kentucky with high distinction in 1983. He and his team not only built that practice into one of the most successful dental practices in his state, but accomplished it through the concept of multiplication through subtraction, making more by working less. Dr. Feck founded Sunrise Dental Solutions in 2005 in response to the void of customized support provided by successfully practicing dentists. Sunrise Dental Solutions has since become the source for practice optimizations by dentists for dentists. I am so pleased to welcome somebody who has become a good friend of mine, somebody I definitely have learned a ton about, and he's the one that really welcomed me into this industry. Tony, brother, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, JM. It is wonderful to be on here with you and hopefully share some things that'll be meaningful to your audience.
Well, there's no question about that. And here's the reason I know that. You have this innate ability to do that. You have this genuine care and this, and again, I could wax for a long time about what an awesome dude you are. But one of the things that is a skill set of yours, and I know we're going to be talking about this, is really the financial health for dental practices. And I have to imagine in your 40 years of practice, you've watched some of the roller coaster in terms of the economy, and you even wrote a book on this to really say, hey, there's a better way to do this, to work less and make more. So, brother, you're going to bring a ton to it. I guess I'll start there. What was your inspiration to say, you know what, we can do this a better way? I want to support other doctors out there so that they are making more, working less.
You know, the inspiration was just that I love working with dentists. I love the dental profession. I know I'm not objective when I say this because I am a dentist, but I think there's some of the most giving, most talented, and probably the least appreciated members of the whole healthcare profession. I know firsthand what it takes to become a dentist. I know the stress and the hard work, the going through dental school, the debt that you accumulate in the process. Nobody goes to dental school to get rich because it is by far the most expensive of all the healthcare professions as far as education goes. And then once you get out of dental school, you've got all that debt. And then now you've got the potential debt of starting a new practice. And there are a lot of unique economic challenges facing dentists of all ages now. And so there's this incredible need, and I have the passion. And whenever the need and the ability to address that need intersect, then there is an amazing opportunity. And that's what I've realized with Sunrise Dental Solutions and all the people involved in that whole process.
Yeah, Sunrise Dental Solutions is really unique and it's amazing. And again, I'm so blessed to have found this industry because of speaking at one of your events and then follow up with another. But I want to touch on something that you just said. You said, I didn't get into it, or most of us doctors and dentists, we didn't get into it to become rich. And I remember asking you at one point at a dinner to say, why did you become a dentist? What was that? And you had a really cool answer in terms of you knew your why. You knew what you wanted to do at a very young age. Can you share with the audience what that is? Because again, I wasn't that way. Shoot, I'm 45. I'm still figuring it out. But at a young age, you said, this is where I want to go. And you were so clear on that.
And it is really a blessing. It isn't for everybody that they discover at a very young age what their purpose is. But it really all starts with purpose. I'm a big believer in that we were all created with a specific purpose in mind. And we find that purpose because we have things that we enjoy doing. We have things that we like. We have things that we are good at. There are certain subjects, there are certain places and people that we are drawn to. And I'm also a big believer in the law of attraction. What you are looking for is searching for you as well. You just got to search. And if you'll just be a really good observer, you'll notice things like, well, maybe I really enjoy sciences, natural sciences. Okay? I really enjoy working with my hands. I would really want to be a part of the healing arts in some way. And then, all these things are, in my view, are bred into a person. And then you go to a dentist at a young age, and all of a sudden you say, wow, I want to do this. Okay. Now, I'm talking about when dentists were all men and they wore white smocks and they, smelled like disinfectant, and they had this drill that was on a pulley system and your whole head vibrated. And you know that if that turns you on at that age, then that's really what you were meant to do. So I was an adolescent at the time, and I came back from that dental appointment. Half my face was frozen. I'd just been through this experience, and I said, "This is what I want to do with the rest of my life." Now, I didn't realize that that wasn't the end. Dentistry was just a means to another end, which was really within the dental profession, working with dentists and their teams to help them be more successful, whatever that definition of success entailed.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to dive into that because, again, Sunrise is supporting some of the top 1% out there of dentists. And I know your goal is to really grow that because these lessons that you have learned, you're passing on, which is amazing. But I want to talk about something really fast because you mentioned law of attraction. Now, I'm going to generalize for a moment. By and large, when I think of dentists, I think pretty analytical, very scientific. And then when we talk about law of attraction, although there's a lot of science to that and energy, kind of two different worlds there that we're talking about. What I see with you, specific with law of attraction, is you also seize opportunities. And I'm curious if that's what allowed you in your dental practice with Sunrise to really say, wow, there's an opportunity here. I'm not only going to expand on that, but it's taking care of my family in such an incredible way. And again, I really want to focus on this, make more, work less, because anybody in my audience, whether it's a dentist, an entrepreneur, business, it doesn't matter because it's all kind of the same. They all want that thing, man. I want to work less and make more. That sounds amazing. How did you figure out to seize these opportunities, Tony? Because I don't think everybody always sees that, and I want them to.
My own practice became a laboratory. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was learning lessons. And most of these lessons I learned the hard way. I was a good student. I did have an innate curiosity to learn more about how I could have it all. Hopefully that doesn't sound like it's too greedy or arrogant. I had this experience. I started my practice from scratch. This was 1983, before most of your listeners were born. And I was all gung ho about this practice, and I had been told that the secret to success in dentistry was just taking great care of people. And I loved that because I knew that I could do that. I knew I wanted to do that. And so I set out to do that. And guess what? My practice grew. It became busier. I outgrew 3 different facilities in the span of the first 9 years after I was out. My practice was expanding, was growing. People were coming to see me. The only problem was that I was miserable. Okay, I didn't start out being miserable, but all you got to do is work within a intense profession like dentistry for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 5, sometimes 5.5 days a week, and it will steal from you your physical, emotional, even spiritual reserve. And I got to this place, and I was successful by everybody's definition, but I was working my rear end off. I was starting a young family at the time. I went home. I was exhausted. I'd had dinner. I just sit around, maybe watch a little television, fall asleep in a chair, get up the next day, and go do it all over again. And I was, not being the father and the husband that I needed to be. So I made a decision, and my decision was this. And this is going to sound really selfish, but I said I'm only going to work 8 days a month in my practice. I'm going to take a week vacation every single month, and I am going to make twice as much money. Now, that was a big dream at the time. I had no idea how I was going to make that happen. All I knew was I needed for that to happen, or I was going to have to do something else. Okay, it was a have to thing. So I figured it out. Okay, I did the study, I did the education. I looked at my own practice and said, okay, how can I do more in less time? And some very obvious things came to mind. I'm going to have to leverage myself through other people. I'm going to have to do more productive procedures. I'm going to have to collect a higher percentage of what I produce. I'm going to have to be really efficient when I'm in the office. I'm going to have unique selling points to separate my practice from my competition, so that I'm swimming in those blue ocean waters instead of that red ocean water that comes from the book Blue Ocean Strategies. And guess what? It worked. Now it took a while, but when it did happen, not only did everything that I want happen, but my income more than doubled. And so other people said, "Hey, what are you doing?" Okay, it seems like every time I talk to you, you're coming back from a vacation. Have you retired? And I said, well, sort of, but I'm still on this dental practice and things are going really well. And they said, okay, let's have lunch. So this started with me talking to one dentist, and then it became multiple dentists. And then all of a sudden I'm realizing I either need to cut this off, this informal consulting off, or I need to make a business out of it. And that's basically how Sunrise Dental Solutions was formed.
There's so much to break down on that, but the first thing that comes to mind is, you had a growth mindset before Carol Dweck came out with the book Mindset and coined that term, where you said, look, I am going to do this. It hasn't been modeled for me, but if I don't do this, I need to go find an entirely different practice. And then you set your intention. And the reason I want to bring this up is often we are only we're stuck by our own glass ceiling. It's created because we say, well, I have to do it this way because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And what you said is actually there is something broke. On the outside looking in, everything's great. I'm making a ton of money. My practice has outgrown three different facilities, but I'm miserable. And I want to speak to every entrepreneur right now that may be sitting there saying, you know what? Yeah, I am making 7 figures or 500 grand or whatever the number is, but that's not everything. I have this young family. I want to do more. So I don't know that I put a question there as much as I want to recognize what you said, which is I set this intention and then I went and created that. And I just want people to know that you can do it too. And here's the other thing. you created so many more opportunities by that one decision than had you just drilled for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week or 4 days a week, whatever that would have been. You created so many opportunities both within Sunrise and your dental practice by stepping away. What would you say to that? If for somebody sitting there going, well, gosh, I want what Tony created, and I know it's not going to happen overnight, but could I do this too?
Well, obviously you can do it. And I really feel like probably what should make it more realistic in the minds of people that are listening to this is, just look at me. I mean, I've got talent. I've got gifts like we all do, but I'm not overflowing with either of those two things. What I had more important than any of that was that intention that you're talking about. We do limit ourselves. And in my work with dentists, I often find that one of the most common negative characteristics that hold people back is they just don't dream big enough. They have this self-limiting, this ceiling that you referred to, and they want to work within those restrictions. They say, okay, I can do this, I can do that. And I'll say to them, you can do more than that, right? And they say, well, I want to aim for something that I'm pretty confident will be possible. And that's that attitude that really limits us being able to reach our potential. So I always start with clients in that first meeting. I want to make sure that they have the characteristics that allow them to benefit from what Sunrise Dental Solutions does. They got to have, they got to be coachable. They got to add something to the community because the community itself is so special that that alone makes being a part of Sunrise Dental Solutions extremely valuable. But the third thing is they have to have a big enough dream, right? Because we've only got so much time, we've only got so many resources. Let's invest it in people who want to make big changes that will benefit them and everyone that they come in contact with. So we start out with, what's your vision? And they'll say, what do you mean? I say, okay, I want to know where you want to go. And they say, well, how do I get a vision? And my response is, dream without limits. If there were nothing standing in the way, okay, if you had unlimited financial resources, if you had unlimited talent, if you had all the people around you that you needed to make this happen, what would you do then? And that's when people start thinking on a higher plane. And again, there's this fear that if I set my goal too high and I don't reach it, then I will fail. Well, first of all, we shouldn't fear failure. But secondly, the higher you aim, the higher you will go. Even if you don't hit that, what you're aiming at, just by aiming higher, you go higher.
Yeah, this is one of the key components that any business coach, leader should be doing. It's certainly where I start as well. Your vision has to be so big that everyone you are influencing or everyone on your team, their vision can fit inside of it. And if it's not, they're not going to be with you long term. That is 100% a fact. I love that. So let's talk about specific to Sunrise, because again, this is many, many years of your life work. I think you started back in 2005. So we're talking pushing 20 some odd years. And I'm sure there was coaching before that. But when you're saying, okay, guys, fantastic. And these are successful doctors. These guys are doing well. Guys and gals are doing extremely well, but it can be more. And I love what you talk about. Look, there's no limitations. The only limitation is what you're putting on it. So what is Sunrise doing for people? Because again, I've had a chance to speak to your clients a couple of times. It is a very driven crowd. They're clearly financially successful, and we're talking about financial health. So what is it that Sunrise is doing to say, okay, let's build that vision, let's build that dream. Now what? Now what are we doing to really execute and allow ourselves to make more money and work less?
Yeah, and our mantra in Sunrise is make more, keep more, enjoy more. And we base what we do on the success formula. And the success formula works for any business. This is not just dentistry, but it goes like this. Success is the inevitable outcome of great teams implementing great systems in the presence of great leadership. So we need to hit all three of those things, teams, systems, and leadership. And I know that two of our most prominent and successful practitioners, they were part of Sunrise Dental Solutions, Matt Vandermolen and John Phillips, are also going to be guests on your podcast. And Matt is the perfect person to talk on leadership, and John is the perfect person to talk about building great teams. So I'll in the limited time I know we have, I'll talk about great systems. And when we talk about great systems, we're ultimately what they are designed to do in this financial realm we're talking about is make you more profitable. And the profit formula is production times collection rate minus overhead. If you can be more productive, if you can collect a higher percentage of what you produce and you can control your expenses, then it's an inevitable that you will be profitable. And in Sunrise, the standard is the 7 Club. That means you take home from your practice, each practice owner, 7 figures. And now we have a new group that we're going to have to add, which is the 8 Figures Club. Now, this is pretty heady stuff. Okay? None of these people, by the way, came to Sunrise at that level. Okay? It's just the inevitable outcome of applying these principles. And when it comes to what's going on today, again, 4 decades of practicing, 3 decades of consulting and coaching, I have a unique perspective on this. And I see that certain things tend to be circular. Okay? What goes around comes around. It's cyclical. And certain things tend to be linear. And there are several things that are linear that have happened in dentistry the last 4 to 5 years that we have to adjust if we're going to continue to be profitable as private practice owners. 2019 is not going to walk through the door ever again. Okay. So we've got all these pressures. Overhead is going up due to inflation, and dental inflation is always 2 points higher than the CPI. We've got staff shortages that are resulting in the number one expense that any practice owner has, which are staff and wages costs. That's squeezing the overhead side. And on the collection rate side, if you are participating in a discount dental plan, a PPO, you know that the inflation has caused you to raise your prices, but these plans have not raised their allowances to keep pace with that. So this profit margin is being squeezed, and the only way that we can respond to that is to be more productive. Okay? We can make some headway with regard to overhead and collection rate, and many of our practices that have formally participated in PPOs, we've been able to successfully navigate exiting that type of dentistry and going full fee for service. Not for everyone, but for many of our practices. But as far as being more productive, there are 12 systems that over the years I realized are the key to a practice being more productive.
I want to dive into the systems for sure, but something that you said earlier in the show, and then you brought up John Phillips, and a shout out to him and his team in Chickasha, Oklahoma. It's about 17,000 people, if I'm not mistaken, the town. And the practice, I want to say, has at least 15 operating areas. 15 chairs is what I'll call it. And I say this to give people some perspective to say, look, it's not like he's sitting in, I don't know, downtown Chicago or LA or New York. It's not a big metropolis that his practice is in, and yet it's one of the more successful ones. And why I'm bringing this up, Tony, before we get to the systems, you had mentioned focusing on taking care of the people, and your practice grew bigger than three facilities it grew out of. And John has a very similar focus. And I want to touch on this point because often I think you mentioned leaderships and you mentioned teams. And that's why I want to hit this really quick before we hit systems, because both of you had that focus on when we take care of the people, not necessarily client or patients, excuse me. I always like to say clients, but not necessarily patients, but my team members. When I take care of them, it's amazing how we grow. What was your idea when you were really practicing and what you're teaching? When you say focus on taking care of the people, it seems like that is a part of your growth factor. And I'm watching it. I saw it in John's. I went to David Lawrence in Oklahoma. I've seen Dr. Hayes out in Tennessee, and it seems like there's a real feel. And I want to make sure that we don't lose this in the numbers, because taking care of the people, building your teams and leadership, I'm watching some fantastic results in, like I said, 17,000 person town. That's a huge practice.
It's an interesting dynamic. Chickasha, Oklahoma, and Cookeville, Tennessee, and Sylacauga, Alabama. I mean, I can and go on and on about the Sunrise clients that are in small population areas that have not just dominated their local market, but it extends well beyond that. And we've got people from more metropolitan areas just driving because they want to be a part of this practice experience that they've created. So it can be done. What we're talking about doing can be done anywhere. And if the first thought to your mind, if you're listening to this and you say, not in my place, that's the kind of thinking that is holding you back. What if it could be done? Right? And that's been my experience. Anyway, what John and Matt and Kevin and David, what they realize is what I referred to earlier. If you are going to make more, okay, and have more time off, then you're going to have to leverage yourself. If you don't, then you will be limited by what these two hands can create. And a lot of dental practices are. And they also have this false notion that if I grow bigger and if I have a larger team and if I delegate more of these important accountable tasks to others, it will increase my stress. And that's not been my experience at all. Okay? It all comes down to having the right people, having the right systems, having the right organization, having all the balances and checks in place. It all comes with how you run your business. And that's what Sunrise Dental Solutions helps its clients do.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that scares people is, man, if I grow, I'm taking on more responsibilities. Now I'm going to be more, like you said, more stressed out. Now I'm creating this nightmare where in truth, anybody that's scaled a business, which is what we're talking about, these are businesses. When you scale a business, when you really can let go. And now I know we're going to dive into the systems, which I think, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dentist, so everyone's clear. I don't know these systems, but what I do know is any business, when you're willing to let go, empower your people or delegate, as you said, when you empower your people, Now you don't have to be responsible over everything. In fact, that is probably the number one killer of business growth is I have to have my hands everywhere. Because you're right, you only have two hands, you only have 24 hours, and if you think you have to control everything, you are immediately limiting your growth. So let's talk about some of the systems. I don't know if we can get to all 12, but I'm really curious to what you found to say, gosh, JM, if we could just get these systems or this idea, dentists around the country, around the world are going to profit so much more, help more people, create more opportunities. What would those be, Tony?
Okay, so these are all production systems. If you're going to tip this profitability formula equation in your favor, it's most likely going to happen because of significantly increasing your practice production. So what that requires is it requires you to grow the capacity to produce more. And in order to grow the capacity to produce more, you have to have the physical facility in order to do that. You have to have quality providers and team members. You have to have quality and quantity new patients. All three of those things have to happen. You have to have the patients, you have to have the providers and team, and you have to have the physical footprint. And again, this is another place where I'll get some pushback sometimes from a dentist because I think, we're talking about expanding my facility. We're talking about maybe even moving to a different facility. And, my response to that is, you're like, you own a pizza restaurant. Okay. If you want to make more money, you need to bake more pizzas. And in order to bake more pizzas, you need more ovens. That analogy is true with dentists. If you're going to produce more dentistry, you need more treatment rooms. Okay? And that may mean remodeling. It may mean adding on to your facility. It might even mean moving. And people say, well, that's going to cost me a lot more money. Well, when has making any significant change that paid off in more revenue not meant that you didn't have to invest first? It's all front end loaded, and it's the best investment you can make. If you have to borrow money, the best way to borrow money is to borrow it to do something that will make you more money. And that's adding more operatories. So we got to get that facility. Okay? The second thing is that we've got to have the team in place so that we make use of that facility. The facility is no good if we're not doing dentistry in it. So we have to have good team members, quality associates, and then we have to have the patients. And we need a marketing plan that drives high quality patients to your office. Okay? So I've covered several systems there: the facility, quality team, quantity team, and quality and quantity new patients. The next thing you have to have is you have to have a productive treatment mix. You have to be doing things that are more productive than other things. You've got to be placing implants and restoring implants. You've got to be doing cosmetic dentistry. You've got to be doing full mouth rehabilitation. You've got to be doing sedation dentistry in your practice. Okay? They're just more productive. You're doing more dentistry per unit time. You're doing more of it through other people. And then the next thing you have to have is you have to have a high rate of case acceptance. Case acceptance is like anything else. It's a system. Okay? It is asking the right questions. It's listening skills. It is finding out not just what people want. And by the way, a lot of dentists say, case acceptance, that's selling dentistry. That's beneath me. Well, no, it's not. Sales is not a bad profession. We all sell. We just don't realize it. We're all selling every single day when we get up. And if you don't like selling, look at it this way. If you give people what they want, you'll never have to sell another day in your life. Give people what they want. Ask what they want. Now, you say, well, wait a minute. What they want may not be what they need. Well, there's where the sales skills come in. That's where a person like J.M. Ryerson can teach you that, here's how we lead people from need to want.
I want to talk about the mentality that goes into the growth because you're right. As you were talking, I was thinking Field of Dreams. I'm like, if you build it, they will come. And I know it's scary because you're taking on overhead and everything Tony just said. He's not saying be foolish. He's saying be a financial steward, right? Be smart with it, but you have to create the opportunity. And oftentimes, Tony, I'm sure you've seen this because I've seen it with other businesses that I've worked with. They have this fear like, well, if I invest now, I'm giving myself too much overhead. And it's really fears. And fears stand for false evidence appearing real. It's not real, but I understand that what's happening. What would you say to somebody right now? And I know you touched on it, but gosh, man, I'm watching these people when they take that leap of faith, when they say, you know what, I give great service. We have a great team. We give an amazing product. I haven't seen people fail when they build it out because they do all those amazing things. What would you say to them, brother? Because I find it's more of a mindset than anything that's holding them back. And I want people to hear this because, again, we want you to work less, make more. And I think you said keep more was the other part of that. That's what we're talking about. So that mindset, that limiting belief, what would you say to them, Tony?
If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. I've said that so many times, and I have to keep reminding myself because we're all susceptible to fear. Okay, fear of failure. What if this doesn't work? And there is, and it seems to be a part of the dentist makeup, this scarcity mentality. And whenever any type of change is contemplated, then the mind goes directly. But what if? You always think about the negative, and that holds people back and causes them to be paralyzed and to not do nothing in your life of consequence has ever been accomplished if you didn't step out in faith. Okay? I look back at my own life. I mean, there's been several things that I've done, and yeah, it was scary. Borrowing a bunch of money, doing something that nobody has done before, believing in yourself, all these things. There'd be times where I'd get up in the middle of the night and go outside and throw up. Okay. And then I would get done and I'd say, you know what? Last time I did this, really good things happened. And I went back to sleep and slept like a baby because, I realized. And so it's easier if you've got somebody walking with you through the process who has taken chances, maybe even taken the same chance that you're contemplating. And that's, again, going back to Sunrise Dental Solutions, one of the reasons for Sunrise was that at the time, there were all kinds of people out there in the space of dental consulting, but none of them were actually actively practicing successful dentists. So Sunrise Dental Solutions filled that void. Okay, it was started by dentists, it was staffed by dentists, and to this day, it's heavily involved. Its participants are actively practicing successful dentists that are passionate about giving back to a profession and to colleagues that have made their wonderful lives possible.
Yeah, givers gain. There's no doubt about it. And look, again, when you're a part of something like Sunrise, when you have that community, now some of those fears, I said it wasn't real, but the truth is it is a real thing for you, right? This fear. But when you have a community of people that are growth minded, that are there to support you, that are there to say, look, you can do this. We've done it, or we'll be right there with you. I mean, that's huge. And the other thing, as you're talking, I'm thinking, you know what? These are people that have done amazing stuff, got through dental school, not easy. You have succeeded all through your life. Why would it be different now? Why would it be different if you grew out your practice? Why are you all of a sudden going to fail? You're not. You're a winner. And I want people to hear that. Like if you can dream it, you can absolutely accomplish it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about sales for a second, because you're
Okay.
right. I am passionate about it.
Mhm.
You said the moment you get out of bed, you're selling. And it is, truer words have not been spoken. When I'm telling my wife, hey, babe, I'm going to go play golf, I'm selling. I am selling her on why I need to go play golf. So we're clear.
Mhm.
So often it's funny how sales can get a negative connotation. And I've noticed it a bit within the dental world, where it's like, well, I don't like sales. Sales is gross. And it's like, well, the truth is sales is not gross. Sales is life. So if you don't like sales, you don't like life. I mean, that's just the fact. But sales doesn't have to be that gross feeling, because you're providing amazing services, amazing products. That's what always gets me tripped up with people when they're like, well, I don't like sales. And I'm like, why? Gosh, can you tell me all the things you do? Because I want pearly whites like you do. I say it's something that I think may be applicable, and I'm curious to get your opinion. Sell them what they want and then give them what they need.
Yeah.
How does that apply within the dental space, Tony? Is that an applicable saying? Because again, I'm fortunate to be working with some pretty amazing practices out there, and they're taking these ideas on and they're really expanding, which is fantastic. But does that make sense when I say sell them what they want, give them what they need?
Yeah. I mean, we need to start with what people want. I think some of the reasons that sales have negative connotations is that we've been sold things in the past that we really didn't want. I mean, because the person selling this, they had an agenda, and their agenda wasn't what was best for you. So if the motive is right, the motive is pure, that, you know what, I'm here to help you. And if I can help you get more of what you want and less of what you don't want, I can have anything that I want. So you start there. Okay, I've got to give people what they want. That's the only way that they're going to accept at a high enough percentage what it is that I do. It's the only way that I'm going to get what I want, which is to grow my revenue stream and be more successful in my practice and my business. So we start with what they want, and then we find out that what they want, what they actually need, are really one and the same. Okay? There's a connection between what they want. Okay? In order to have those pearly whites that you talk about, then we have to have a healthy foundation. Okay? It doesn't do any good to have really white teeth and bloody red gums around those teeth. It doesn't do any good to have pearly white teeth if when you eat they move. Okay? And they have to be taken out, and there's there's pain and emergencies. So it's not a stretch to go from want to need. Our ability to really listen and learn what people want is one thing, but there is a huge leap that happens when we go to the emotion behind what they tell you they want. One is the what, but the why is the key, the case acceptance. If you can satisfy that emotional need around that chief complaint, then you'll be surprised. People will accept whatever you present to them, and they will go to the ends of the earth in order to make it happen. Learn, you don't have to call them sales skills. If you don't like that word, fine. Okay, we'll call them communication skills. Okay, what you're doing is you are effectively communicating people to influence them to do something that's in their best interest. And because you provide that service, you benefit as well. There. Maybe that makes you feel a little better about selling.
Brother, that is literally, I could mic drop there, because you lead them is what I'm hearing. And I know we didn't even talk on leadership, but That's really what you just said, is lead them to what they really, so they have proper gum health and proper, like a healthy body, and they have the look cosmetically. You're leading them to something amazing. Brother, I could sit here and talk to you for hours. I'm looking at the clock. It's almost been 45 minutes already. What didn't I know enough to ask you that you want to make sure to leave with the audience before we start to wrap up?
Well, because we didn't have a lot of time to get deeply into these systems, and we talked about expanding your facility and borrowing money, I don't want to leave people with the impression that's the only way that you can produce more. Before you would do that, you'd want to make full use of your existing resources. And this can happen by just improving that team, improving systems like scheduling systems, setting goals and then scheduling to goal. Is something that often increases someone's revenue 15 to 20%, just doing those things. Having a budget. Dentists don't get any of this in dental school, but if they've gone to their first class in business school, day number one, business school, it's budgeting. And dentists think they have a budget, but they really don't. So we go through this exercise. Okay, tell me what you want. Okay, let's attach a number to what you want. Okay, we got your number. Satisfies your professional, your practice, your personal needs, all of that. Okay, now let's work backwards. Okay, and create a plan to make that happen. And once we've got goals and we've got a goal-focused team, then everyone on that team is pulling toward the definition of any business in any given day, including a dental practice. That's reaching that goal. You'd be amazed if we've got everybody in that team pulling in that direction passionately, sold out, committed to doing that, how consistently we can do a lot more dentistry, good dentistry. Right? And that's going to come back to not only helping a lot of people in your community, but in this world we live in, it's impossible to help others without helping yourself.
Yeah, I love the idea of reverse engineering, which is what he said is, look, here's the goal, and then we're going to break it down systematically, take the analytical brain, we're going to apply it, but we have to start with the vision. Brother, I know that you guys have incredible trips and get-togethers and gatherings that Sunrise does. I know you have one coming up in Colorado, I think I want to say September.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm listening to this and I'm like, well, I want to be a part of the seven-figure club or the eight-figure club now. I have a great practice, but I need that support. Where's the best place for them to connect with you, Sunrise, so they can be a part of it? Because we're not trying to be the best kept secret here. Sunrise wants to help, but often it's really being able to reach out. So how can they do that with you?
So you can go to sunrisedentalsolutions.com. You can learn more about us. And at that website, there's actually a practice questionnaire that you can fill out. You can submit it, and we will get back to you and tell you what the potential is of a working relationship. You can also reach out to me directly. I've dentists do it all the time. I've got the time to address those responses. So my personal email is Tony Feck, that's TonyFeck.com. And I'm happy to help in any way that I can. And if it looks like it would be a good mix for you to be working with Sunrise Dental Solutions, I will be honest and tell you that and show you the potential of what a working relationship could be for you.
That's awesome, man. I cannot thank you enough for coming on. I cannot thank you enough for really bringing me into this incredible world of dentistry. I've found my why, my passion. And like you said, when I'm able to help these practices double their revenue through just simple things, that at least simple in my mind, and I'm watching these, I'm just so grateful to have you, brother. And I just thank you so much for sharing and really bringing me to this incredible world of dentistry, man. It means a ton.
Well, likewise. I mean, the fact that this is your new passion. A lot of dental professionals are going to be blessed by your presence in this space. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for what that will mean to a lot of my colleagues. So thanks for having me, and I really can't wait to see what happens with all of this.
Me too, man. Me too. You guys, I mean, my goodness, we covered a ton of ground. But let's just take the overall. Let's get you to that 7-figure. Let's get you to that 8-figure. But more importantly, let's work less, earn more, keep more. Go check out Sunrise, Tony, his entire team. They're awesome people, and they can absolutely expand your business. Absolutely an incredible episode. And until next time, remember, your mindset matters. I appreciate you all so much. We'll talk soon.